Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take the source material, could be academic papers, insider notes, or, like today, a really dense rulebook, and just turn it into a conversation that gets you right up to speed.
And today, we are jumping into the world of a miniature skirmish game, Burrows Badgers, second edition. It's this fantasy world with anthropomorphic animals, but don't let that fool you.
Oh, not at all.
The mechanics are complex, and the strategy is, frankly, pretty brutal.
Right. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to explore that friction between the sort of charming lore and these granular, really high-stakes mechanics. We're going to unpack the politics, the dice system, and the tough choices you have to make when building your warband.
And you really have to start with the story, because the strategy is completely tied to this troubled land you're fighting in. We're in a place called Albion. The year is 799, and the northern kingdom of Northumbria is, well, it's falling apart.
Because the king is gone. King Red Wolf Arthur just, poof, vanished 3 years ago. The official line was a religious pilgrimage, but you can imagine what the whispers are now.
Oh, absolutely. The source material is clear on that. People are talking about madness, maybe a plague, or even an outright assassination. A lot of fingers are pointing at, freebie agents.
And that power vacuum is being filled by this regent, Prince Reinhard, who sounds, universally hated.
Deeply unpopular. But he's also ruthless and very ambitious. And when you have that kind of rot at the top, everyone else starts looking for alternatives.
Which leads us to the other factions circling around.
Yeah.
You've got the Free Beast Republic of Merce to the south, run by these powerful fox families.
And they talk a great game, right? Meritocracy, equality for all. It sounds really appealing if you're sick of the monarchy.
But the reality is a little different.
It's run by a wealthy, self-serving elite, so you get this amazing conflict of ideas. Is it the promise of freedom or just a different kind of tyranny? And then to the north, you have the raiding hillfolk clans who are just pure chaos.
It's the perfect storm for small bands of mercenaries to thrive in, really.
Yeah.
And speaking of the beasts themselves, this is where the flavor is just incredible. Take the badgers.
They're huge, physically massive, one of the deadliest things you can meet, and everyone treats them with this wary respect.
And then you have the hares. They're supposedly the best natural warriors in the whole kingdom.
And the mechanics back that up. They start with an innate skill called Leaper, and the trait Strong. The game is telling you from the get-go, these are your frontline shock troops. They're fast, and they hit harder than they look.
But then you have a species like the moles, who are kind of the opposite, at least in one key way. They're strong, they're tenacious, but they're short-sighted.
Exactly, and that isn't just flavor text. It's a huge mechanical penalty. It means they are terrible with any kind of ranged weapon. It's just awful. Their whole strategy has to be about getting up close, probably by surprise.
And I found the toes really interesting. They're slow, which makes sense, but they have this tough 2 natural armor. And the rulebook specifically says the males are great magic users with high concealment stats.
Which paints a picture of this sort of unmoving, hard-to-kill turret of a spellcaster, right?
It's a beautiful system where the why, like a mole's bad eyesight, is directly tied into the how of your strategy.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's get into the engine of the game. How does all this actually work on the table?
It all runs on a full set of polyhedral dice. You've got your D4s, D6s, all the way up to D20s. And the core mechanic for almost everything is something called the roll-off.
The roll-off. So if my hare wants to attack that big badger, how does that actually resolve?
It's a simple opposition roll. You, the attacker, roll your relevant stat dice, let's say a strike, and add any modifiers. The defender rolls their stat dice, probably block, and adds their modifiers.
Highest total wins. It seems straightforward.
It is, until fate gets involved. And this is where the game gets really exciting and, chaotic.
You're talking about the special rolls.
Exactly. The perfect roll. If you roll the highest number possible on your die of 4, on a D4, a 12 on a D12, whatever, you instantly get a massive +7 bonus to your total.
Hang on. A +7, that's a game changer. In a skirmish game, that could double your total.
It's enormous. It means even the weakest little mouse has a real chance to do something spectacular against the toughest enemy on the board. It's the ultimate underdog mechanic.
So as a player, you're never completely safe, but you're also never completely out of the fight. There's always that Hail Mary chance.
Always. And on the flip side, you have the disastrous roll, rolling a natural 1. You fail, obviously, and probably in a spectacular way. But the model that failed gets 1 extra fate point.
So you get a resource for your bad luck. That's a really clever feedback loop.
Sure.
It almost makes you want to roll a 1 early on just to bank that fate point for later.
It happens. It's this design choice that says, look, if the dice abandon you, here's a little something to help you get back in control. That fate point can be crucial.
Now, these roll-offs are based on 9 different stats. We don't need to list them all, but it seems like there's a core trio, right? You have strike and block for combat, nimbleness for movement, and getting the first turn.
And the one people often forget is presence. It's a leadership stat. It determines how well your leader can keep the band together when things go wrong, and it's what you roll against to make an enemy band run away. A high-presence leader can hold the line when everyone else is falling apart.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about the flow of battle. Each model gets 2 actions. You can do the same one twice, but there's a penalty on the second one.
A -2 modifier on the roll, yeah. So you can go all in on attacking, but that second swing is a little less accurate.
And the movement actions have these interesting trade-offs. The charge, for example. If you move more than 3 inches to get into a fight, you get a +2 bonus on your attack.
But, and this is a big but, the move itself is treated as difficult terrain. You actually have to pass a roll using your movement stat just to make it there. You're gambling a bit of certainty for a combat bonus.
And then there's the barge. This seems like it's all about size.
It is. A big creature can literally shove a smaller one. You can use it to push an archer off a wall, or just move a defender out of your way to get to a more important target. It's pure battlefield control.
But the deepest tactical layer here seems to be the sneak action. This is for the more cunning players.
Oh, absolutely. When you sneak, you move slowly, but you gain the sneaking condition. This makes you harder to shoot at from a distance, and it lets you use your concealment stat to defend yourself instead of block, which is often much better for sneaky types.
But the real kicker is the delay mechanic, isn't it?
That's the one. If sneak is your first action, you can hold your second action. You can wait and use it at any point before your next turn starts.
So you can interrupt an enemy's activation.
You can! It's the perfect ambush. You interrupt them, declare an ambush charge or an ambush shoot, and they have to defend using their awareness stat, which is usually terrible. It turns a defensive move into a devastating counterattack.
That level of counterplay really brings us to how you build your band in the first place. You start with 350 pennies, max of 10 models, and you have to pick your allegiance.
And that choice of allegiance is everything. It defines your playstyle, it gives you bonuses, it dictates what kind of rare gear you can get, and it locks you into a certain identity that ties back to that whole political mess we talked about.
Okay, so let's look at a few of those trade-offs. What if you go with the Royalists, the King's guys?
They're your classic, well-trained fighters. Their bonus, expert training, lets you upgrade the strike dice of 2 of your models. They get access to the best swords, the best armor. They're reliable, solid, but maybe a bit predictable.
And then you have the Rogues. Totally different philosophy.
Completely. They're all about movement and manipulating luck. They get a bonus to move, nimbleness, or concealment. And crucially, they start every single game with 3 extra fate points because of a rule called Born Lucky.
So they're built for those high-risk, high-reward plays we were talking about earlier.
That's their entire game plan. They live and die by those fate points.
Then you have the Kindred. A knightly order, but with a huge catch.
A massive one. They're incredible archers. They get expert training for their ranged dice, but their restriction is travel light. They are forbidden from wearing heavy or very heavy armor.
They're glass cannons.
The definition of it. They can dish out incredible damage from a distance, but the second someone gets into melee with them or another archer draws a bead on them, they can just fall apart.
That really forces a specific kind of strategy. And speaking of the price of power, let's talk magic. It seems incredibly powerful, but the cost is just staggering.
It is. A magic user gets their first spells for free, which sounds great. But for every single starting spell they take, they get the penalties Weak 1 and Delicate 1.
For each spell. So if you start with 3 spells, you're Weak 3 and Delicate 3.
Correct. Which makes your wizard incredibly fragile. It's a fantastic piece of narrative design. The Mole, who spent all his time in a library reading spellbooks, is not going to be good in a fistfight. You have to protect your magic users perfectly, or they just evaporate.
And the spells themselves are wild. Dark magic has things like Paralyze or Rage, which can just take an enemy model out of the fight or turn it into a liability.
Then you have Unbound magic with things like Sangram's Portable Protector, which can give the caster a temporary tough save. It's a panic button that lets you briefly overcome that built-in weakness.
Okay, so you have these fragile but powerful casters. Let's talk about gear. Armor seems to follow that same pattern of risk and reward.
It does. Heavy armor gives you great protection, obviously, but it comes with a big nimbleness penalty. So you're less likely to go first, you're worse at dodging. It's a trade-off.
And for magic users, that penalty is even worse, right?
It's crippling.
Mm.
If a mage wears armor, their spellcasting rolls suffer a penalty equal to the armor's tough bonus. You basically have to choose. Are you a heavily armored warrior or a spellcaster? You can't be both.
And then we get to the really memorable stuff, the Kyrosiphon, the flamethrower.
Ah, yes, the Kyrosiphon. It's an ancient, incredibly rare piece of equipment. It has unlimited range.
Unlimited range? That's insane.
It's bonkers. But every time you fire it, you have to roll these misfire dice. And if you roll a 1 on any of them, something bad happens. And the worst result on that table is detonation.
Which means...
It means the weapon explodes. The user is immediately taken out of action, and so is anyone, friend or foe, who is touching their base. Gone. Instantly.
So the question isn't, is this weapon good? The question is, are you brave enough to give it to one of your heroes?
Exactly. Who has that kind of risk tolerance? It's a weapon of desperation.
And you can contrast that with something simple, like a silk undershirt. It just reduces wound damage from arrows by 1. A quiet, reliable piece of gear?
It all feeds into the campaign system. This game is meant to be played over many battles. Your characters level up, they learn new skills, but they also get hurt. They pick up injuries.
And the heroic sacrifice rule is the peak of that narrative drama.
It really is. A wounded model, knowing they're about to go down, can declare a heroic sacrifice. For their very next action, they get a guaranteed +7 bonus on their roll. A moment of pure glory.
But the cost is immense.
As soon as the action is over, win or lose, they're immediately taken out of action, and after the battle, they have to roll on the major injuries table. It's a guaranteed serious injury, maybe even death, for one last decisive moment.
It's something you only do when winning that specific battle means everything. And then there's routing, running away.
Right. If you lose half your band, you have to start making checks to see if the rest of them flee, but you can also choose to run. After turn 3, you can declare a voluntary rout.
You save your models from getting more injury.
You do, but you pay for it. In the next battle, your leader starts with 0 fate points. They are demoralized, they're unlucky, and that's a huge tactical disadvantage.
So you save your models' bodies, but you break their spirit for the next fight. It just reinforces that every single choice, from allegiances to retreating, has a real cost in this world.
The whole game is just this brilliant mix of, cute animals with swords and incredibly deep, crunchy rules. Every roll matters, every piece of gear is a trade-off, and it all builds this amazing ongoing story for your warband.
It really does. We've seen how those perfect and disastrous rolls can create these wild, cinematic swings of luck, but then the allegiance restrictions, like the kindred not being able to wear heavy armor, force you into a very specific discipline strategy.
And with complex actions like that delayed sneak and the just insane risk of gear like the Kyrosiphon, it becomes a game about calculating odds and managing risks, not just rolling dice.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. When you're creating your band and you're choosing your allegiance, remember what's happening at the top. King Redwolf is gone. There are rumors of madness and plots swirling around his unpopular regent, Prince Reinert. What does it actually mean to be a royalist in that situation? Are you fighting for a noble crown, or are you just a pawn for the next ambitious beast who wants to claim it? The choices you make on the tabletop really do reflect the choices of a kingdom in chaos.
Choose your side carefully, and may all your rolls be perfect.
We'll see you next time for the deep dive.